or after?
Usually they talk after, but at this they talk before.
Well. Wow. Thank you guys for being here. Wow.
Hello. How's it going?
Wow, this is special. I'm a little speechless. I don't know what to say, but I gotta pay attention to the clock here. So
That's right. That's right, Lyndon. We gotta focus.
we gotta focus. But first off, I mean, thank you so much for doing this.
No.
I mean, come on, like.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Lyndon, we got back in touch. I'm trying to work on, my old body is not as flexible as it used to be, but in this time, I think it's important to bolster your connections and form new connections, and it was one of the reasons why I reached out to Lyndon, and happy to be here. Lyndon said, "Why don't you come out here?" I was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do that." And then he convinced me to do it, and now I'm glad I'm here.
Thank you. Oh, well, shall we jump right in?
I guess we'll jump right in.
Okay. So, this whole, I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the exhibition Cyberpunk. It's really beautifully done here. I mean, just a lot of things that everyone does here at this museum is just very special. So I'm really privileged and honored to be a part of all this.
We just started talking about this other idea that just kind of landed on us, and it kind of just dominated our lives, and we were like, we just kept expounding on it and expounding on it and expounding on it.
As passion projects do.
As passion projects do.
Yeah.
And it would like sort of incorporated all of these, all of the media that we were consuming at the time, like Kung Fu and anime and, comic books and, science fiction and Westerns. And we were able to like cobble together this thing, and it's just sort of snowballed. And but the more complicated answer is that we're all part of this. Our lives are all part of this, complicated tapestry. And it's like my mom and dad had a lot to do with it, and my sisters and my aunts, and it's about all of their influences and the things that we learned from them to make us human beings. And we're also a couple of trans women, trying to figure out our shit. And so that became a way for us to create this like magic trick where you weave this spell where you cast a rope forward in your life, and you're able to use that rope to carry yourself along. And so I think that's where those movies come from.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then as a second movie, it was just like we did Bound, and there was these just series of these. We got really lucky. There were these series of circumstances that were, we wrote a script, and like it opened some doors, and we wrote another script, and that script opened some doors, and then we got to make Bound, and then we started getting this relationship with Warner Brothers, and Warner's had they had done this remake of Diabolique, and spent like $60 million on it, and it was not successful for them at the box office, and they looked at us and what we had done with Bound, and they were like, well, who are these guys? And we were like, yes, who are these guys indeed? And that's a good question. We tried to question ourselves many times. And then, we were like, well, maybe we could make this thing. And it was the script that we had written and Joel Silver had bought. And, it was like beyond our wildest dreams that we would get to direct it. But once we had made Bound and we were, we were getting confident as filmmakers, we were able to, press them a little bit more. And we're like, if we could just have a little bit of money, we could hire an artist and, we just draw a couple of sequences. And we ended up drawing the helicopter sequence and then another thing and then another thing. And then we brought in our friend Jeff Darrow, and he drew a couple of things for us. He drew the fetus stalk. And the more we drew, the more we were able to coax Warner Brothers into maybe these two people could direct this. And and then Warner Brothers, they had this string of just bad luck where they had these big movies that weren't working out the way that they wanted them to. And it got to this point where we were with these executives, and the executives were just desperate. And we became this gamble for them that they were willing to just, put it all on 31 Black or something at the roulette table. And, it was really, the pressure was, unimaginably intense. We were second-time filmmakers, and these people were going, you have to save my job. You have to save my job. We're like, oh, I don't know. This is kind of intense. And they did, and they took a chance on, two young filmmakers.
Very cool. That's just beautiful.
So, Lyndon. You joined, you came on for Reloaded and Revolutions. We were doing both films simultaneously. But what were your initial reactions, not just from the story, but just pure visual effects point of view?
I mean, you guys created something that was so iconic and everything. And so, everyone wanted to be involved in that. But, I just remember I'm sitting in because it was completely unexpected. I'm sitting in my office at Rhythm and Hue Studios, visual effects studio. And I don't remember, I think at the time, I probably was working on Scooby-Doo. Of all things, Scooby-Doo. I had animated on some features before. Then I directed an episode of the PJs. Got back in the stop motion world. Then I had done Kung Pao, Enter the Fist, where we actually did a whole Matrix gag with the cow going up in bullet time and shooting from the other side. Going back. I mean, classic stuff. And so I get this call from Pete Takeuchi, one of the VFX producers. And you guys were in the Bay Area, and he's like, I'm up in the Bay now, and I'm working on these things, these two films that I think you'd be really good for, man. So I was wondering if you just want to come up and meet with the team and think about it, And so I'm like, damn, Pete, congrats, man. But what's happening? What's going on? What's the films? And he said, well, it's Matrix Reloaded and Revolution. And I dropped the phone. Because that was not what I was expecting. So they fly me up to the Bay, and I meet everybody. Pete introduces me to Ed. I think John was on set at the time. John Gade, he was on set. And so I meet Ed.
So we were shooting that.
Yeah, you were shooting. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The photography was, I think, going on in Sydney, or I think so. And
If it was,
I think it was like April 2002, something like that.
okay, so we would have been, at that point, we would have been shooting like in Alameda. We shot
Okay.
3 sequences there. We shot the highway
The
sequence
freeway sequence, yeah.
and the park sequence, the Burley Brawl, where Smith, the first Smith's Neo fight, and then Zion.
Yeah.
Like the dance stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't get to see any of that, but what I did see, well, because this stuff gets real guarded. Like everything's protected. Like we can take you can meet these, but you can't. I get it. I get it. I had to sign NDAs, all that shit. But then what I saw was the storyboard book and all Jeff Darrow's drawings, and I just went, holy. Because you just got, as an animator, whether you supervise, direct, whatever it is, you're an animator. That's your core, your performance. And when I saw that stuff, and I'm seeing, drawings of the APUs and the sentinels, I'm like, geez, like these 10-ton machines, and I'm thinking in my head, these 10-ton machines, like they're fighting for their lives, they gotta move like with the grace of athletes. So I'm just thinking how I'm gonna perform this stuff, and all the sentinels, just, because the main thing, I was there to, it's the first time you see Zion, so you go down into the dome and you see everything. The guys with APUs, they're drawing their weapons, they're holding guard. Then you see the digger digging down into the world, and you see the thousands of sentinels that's getting ready to go and kill. And so that's the bulk of Reloaded. And then in Revolution, it was the battle. Like we were doing a 20-minute short film within the feature, which you guys would see. And I was just beyond. I just couldn't believe it. So I see all that stuff, and I'm just salivating, but I'm just keeping it cool. Not playing. I said, this is great, man. Good to meet everybody and all that stuff. Man, I'm just, honored to be up here and do this, so, we'll just see what happens. So I go back home, and I don't even remember. It was just a few weeks later. They're like, Lyndon, you're it, man. You got it. And so I just lost it. And then the other thing is I'm living in LA, shooting in the Bay. Then I got to commute because I wasn't leaving LA, so it's easy commute. So I was just commuting the whole time. And Janine was cool with it. She's like, Lyndon, you got to do it. But like, how do you say no to that? Like those films and those sequels, and like I said, it was just something that everyone wanted to do. So there's a point I had to realize this is rare air. The stories were cool. I read all the stuff, and just like I said, they were all beautifully laid out in the storyboards as well. Jeff's artwork there's just nothing like practical artwork, and that guy's brain, and it was just beautiful stuff. So I just couldn't get over it, and I was immediately wanting to just dive into the hardest stuff first. Because that's one thing I do, as an artist, just tackle. When you can tackle the most difficult, you can solve the most difficult problems first. And there were a ton. This thing was just out of control. I just knew that we were just gonna nail it. I had a good team. I brought some guys up here from LA. I hope some of them are here tonight. I know, because I did invite them. And some of the people who animated on the show on my team. And we just had a blast. It was 18 months, and it was just boom.
A blast.
It was a blast. Yes.
I have another question in here about it, but we'll save it.
So let's talk about Cyberpunk. The Matrix helped define modern cyberpunk. So what about this genre spoke to you to be the vehicle for Neo's story? And was it always the plan?
Okay, so cyberpunk was always always spoke to us as a genre, and science fiction. I there's a part of me that I'm not sure if Matrix is cyberpunk. That was one of the things I was trying to wrap my head around, because it feels so like hard science fiction to me, and it has cyberpunkness in it, with the body mods and being able to download stuff and about information as like a commodity, I guess. But like growing up, the kinds of science fiction that we were watching and the cyberpunk that we were reading, and there was always something about cyberpunk that was cool to us because it sort of investigated and critiqued like modes of power and greed and capitalism and the sort of corporocratic singularity. And so, I mean, I have a different relationship to cyberpunk at this time, this like moment that we're all like trying to fucking stay alive. And so
let's get into it.
It's like
we're living it.
Yeah, the cyberpunk, like, and science fiction, it aspires to like critique and reflect on the world around us, and there's something that it that it misses, like, or maybe it doesn't, not now, but the kind of stuff that we were reading back then did, and I have like a funny relationship to it because it's the human capacity for anti-science is it's too fertile, you know. They're like, I know, like we're all dealing with you know, an unimaginable bonkers amount of propaganda, you know, that is just flooding, you know, everything we read and, you know, look at on our screens. And so I know, like, this playing field it's not like, you know, it's being decided in the court of public opinion, because it's like the court of public opinion is like, it's not even ground. And yeah, I mean, like as a trans person, you know, to be trans is a cyberpunk idea. I've hacked my gender. Yeah, it's science. Biologically, I am female, and you know, it's this idea. You know, I woke up to the news the other day, and I'm reading that the UK Supreme Court has decided that trans women are not women, like by a, you know, whatever margin. They've also defined what a lesbian is, by the way. I saw that today too. 6 guys and 3 women have decided what a lesbian is. Like, okay, great. And so I'm like, I know that, you know, the stuff that I was reading and looking at and like that was informing these movies, along with, you know, it's just like, you know, growing up in Chicago and, you know, seeing, you know, the Chicago just split down like north side, south side. This is where the whites live and the blacks live down here. And, you know, all of those things are informing my childhood. And I don't know. I'm going off the rails here, people.
No, because, I mean, you know, the thing about, you know, I don't think there's just one definite definition to cyberpunk. I mean, you're describing many things. And to me, one thing I like a lot about that particular genre, I guess, is that it's all about resistance. And especially in what we're, like you said, we're living now, it's all about resistance. It's all about unifying and, you know, battling back against this. I mean, you know, the things about cyberpunk, we have to, because as artists,